Hello, welcome to Staying Global While Staying Home. I'm Lucy Newcomb, the CEO of Newcomb Global and your host today. And I'm thrilled to have joining me as our featured guest, Priya Rajan, the Managing Director at Global Gateway, Silicon Valley Bank for the MENA and India regions. Hi, Priya.
Hey, Lucy, thank you for having me.
Thrilled to see you, and thanks for joining. Why don't you take just a quick minute to tell us about your role and give us some context for our conversation?
For the folks who don't know Silicon Valley Bank, we're a commercial bank. We've been around for almost 40 years, and we work exclusively with the innovation ecosystem and funds and founders around the world. I'm a part of the team called Global Gateway, and we are the international biz dev team within the bank, and we work with markets that SVB does not have a physical presence in. So we focus on 4 key markets, which is India, LATAM, New Zealand, Australia, and MENA. And as Lucy pointed out, I oversee the India and the MENA market for the bank. Yeah, really excited to be here, Lucy.
Thanks, Priya. Let me tell you just a little bit about Priya before we get into our conversation. Priya began her career in finance with a number of very impressive degrees, including an MBA from Cornell. She began at the bank in finance also, and then worked into early startups, which is where I had the pleasure of meeting Priya and watching her be incredibly effective at building the ecosystem in our area, and then began to work with India and now has expanded to MENA, which is Middle East, North Africa region. So it's my great pleasure to have her with us today and to offer some interesting comparisons and contrasts. Now that we're a year and a half into the pandemic, Priya, and I realize I'm asking you sort of 2 parallel conversations. Why don't you give us a little bit of a sense of what's happening from your point of view with your clients and their clients in both India and MENA?
Yeah, I mean, I think both are doing extremely well, but I can break it down. Let's start with India as an example. As we chatted earlier, it's India, especially in the startup and innovation ecosystem, the venture funding has never been higher, right? The funds raised that the startups have raised just within the September timeframe far exceeded the funds that were raised in 2020. And a lot of those are coming from increased global interest of investors that is flooding into the India market. For a variety of reasons, we can double click on it. So that is definitely, I can say that the startup and innovation ecosystem is thriving. We're seeing like almost 1 unicorn a week that's being minted. Again, that is at a pace that's really unprecedented as well. Wow. And that's something that I don't know if India was even planning for it, right? Like I think it's just that growing momentum, and add to it, third, last but not the least, is the Freshworks IPO, but probably everyone has seen already at this moment. Our first Indian, such a proud moment for India. A SaaS company coming from Chennai, which is my city, and right. Now in the NASDAQ market, which is the first Indian SaaS cross-border company that have touched, the NASDAQ for an IPO. And that just sets a stage and the momentum for the next set of SaaS companies that are going to come. Hopefully many more that we're going to see. So yeah, the momentum, it's really exciting times. I know it's kind of like the odd position that we're talking about the pandemic, but also we're talking about kind of these kind of growing momentum that's happening, but it's good to see both sides, right? Obviously, if I take the other side of it, as we all experienced in US and globally, India was very hard hit through the pandemic. A lot of people lost a lot of their dear ones. Especially the second wave that happened, that hit India extremely hard. I think what had happened is that pushed the founders and the ecosystem to be even more resilient, even more stronger than ever. And the community came together in ways that they've never done before to kind of help pull each other up. And we saw that happening and continuing to happen going into this quarter. On the MENA front, MENA is, I would say it's a toddler. It's growing really fast, really active, and trying to do some amazing things, right? I think it's still at the very nascent stages, but very active, very active. Some of the key markets at SVB, we focus with the MENA. As you said, there's so many countries with the MENA. What we focus on is UAE, Jordan, Egypt, and we're also in Turkey. And there are other markets that are doing really well, but at this moment, this is our focus. even within the four markets, we've been in UAE the longest, but Egypt is something that we just started looking into early 2021. And as we chatted about earlier, came out as a surprise as a part of this post-pandemic, but that is rising at a pace that is faster than what UAE had. And, again, the dollars are still low, but that's only because of the early nascency of still the entrepreneur ecosystem. But, you're going to see that number rise up really fast. And some amazing entrepreneurs we can talk about a little bit later coming out of there. And I'm excited to be a part of that as well.
Well, and thank you for fueling those ecosystems, because as we know very well from being here in Silicon Valley, so much of it is funding, getting the players together. We have the privilege of a cluster economy here. We're all kind of in the same neighborhood. A little harder when things are dispersed, like in India, and the same for most countries in MENA. Many of them are a little smaller, but even so, the urban areas are kind of sparse there. So what kind of services do you tend to find popular from the bank in India and or MENA? If they're the same, great. And if they're different, maybe you could just comment on that. How do you help entrepreneurs in those regions?
Great question. For us, we're a commercial bank to start off with. So where we come in is when a company from India or MENA that is expanding a global footprint. So it could be, if I use an example of a SaaS company coming from, Chennai or Bangalore or Delhi, they usually what they have is that they have an entity structure that is a US holdco, or they may have a Singapore holdco that requires a US denominated banking help. Truly, that's where it starts. It's as simple as that, as a pure kind of a banking US denominated help. But, obviously where we see ourselves is how can we help them all the way from the start to hopefully a finish, and then kind of circle comes back. Our portfolio has companies that have gone through YC, as early as like C to Series A, but all the way up until Decacorn. So I think our portfolio is like the whole gamut, and the services kind of go along with it as well. So it starts with the just plain pure core banking. We make it seamless, but we're there with you through that journey. There's a variety of financing needs that comes along the way, and like for example, venture debt is a key part that comes with. For the companies coming from, and again, using the SaaS example, if there's a company coming from India that has a US holdco and the majority of the revenues are going from US, that is something that we might be able to help them with the venture debt through SVB.
Do you want to take a second? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you want to take just a quick second, since we cover all the sectors, to comment on what venture debt is?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So venture debt is, giving access to capital, which dilutes your equity far lesser than a traditional equity round that you take. So what happens is, an example would be you're taking a founder is taking a $10 million from a VC, and what potentially venture debt could be like 20 to 25% of that round that goes along with it, but it doesn't dilute your equity as much as what you're giving out as a part of that 10 million that you're taking. And why do founders take it is because they don't want to use their equity to, fuel their business expenses, to fuel their expansion. They want to keep that, and they want to use a less dilutive capital to be able to do. Again, this is, if folks have questions, happy to answer. They can ping me, and happy to, help any which way. But the key part is, eligibility of those, right? I just want to set the right expectations. You do have to be venture backed. You have a scalable business, and you have revenues going in US, and potentially a holdco is in US. We look at a variety of factors that goes as a part of it. With that said, if there are things that we are not able to help people and partners that we see if they could be of help, like for example, Partners for Growth is one of our closest partners that we work with in the MENA region. So, for the ones, if we're not able to help people and folks who might be able to help. So that's, again, that is one of the, as you asked about, what are the product sets that comes in. We also help them with cash management. FX is a big part, given that it's global. We live and breathe global a lot. You're seeing as an example, INR, if you look at INR one long time ago, like it was 45 rupees and now it is 73 rupees to a dollar. There's it's a huge differential. So we kind of help companies as they're raising their large dollars. How can we help you with your hedging? How can we help you with your, kind of spot contracts, forward contracts, what have you? And we have our team of dedicated folks who can work with you to make sure you're setting it up right. So, and many more, but happy to answer offline as well.
That's amazing. And you also work with venture capitalists, even though you provide complementary / competitive services like venture debt. Every time I see you giving an event or a program, which are prolific and readily available, I really appreciate that about the Global Gateway team. It seems to me you're always featuring venture capitalists, so it's not like an oppositional scenario. You're really creating another piece in the ecosystem from what I can see.
Yeah, pretty much we work with both sides of the coin, right? Like we work with obviously the founders, but we work with the investors as well. So we get to see who gets funded and who gets funded and who funds them, and that's the best place. And we try to play Cupid a lot of the times, and that's a win-win for both sides. If we're able to kind of connect the dots and or bring the community together for magic happening, that's a win-win, and that's what we do. And Lucy, thank you for those kind words. And you're doing this, right? Like things like this, kind of bringing folks together to help share knowledge, to help help one another to avoid mistakes that potentially they could avoid, or think through ideas that they've not thought about, right? Like any which way that we can increase their probability of success, whether be it an investor, having us connecting them a portfolio company of ours for potential right investment for them, or vice versa, connecting a VC to a founder that is looking for that investor to connect in. We try to do, and most importantly, sharing best practices, right? We kind of have that position of sitting at 10,000 foot level, seeing globally, and we want to share what we're seeing across different markets so folks can learn from each other, and then, obviously share their knowledge as well. So I think that that is a powerful position. I think we're grateful to be in that position. So we want to be able to kind of connect the dots and make that magic happen as much as possible.
And it seems just perfect that you're in this role now, continuing that kind of building and creating also building mentality and global mindset.
I mean, truly, I'm blessed to be in this role, to see innovation that's happening around the globe, the hustle of the founders, across stages, and then just be a small part of their journey and any which way that we can help. Truly inspiring, and inspires me to do my job better, right? Again, grateful. That's the word that I keep saying every day.
Well, I'm sure that entrepreneurs feel grateful for you in the bank too. So I'm glad that's a mutually actionable admiration society. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about that in terms of inspiration. Have you had a chance, knowing that you're in an aerial view, and this may not apply accordingly, a small team covering 2 major regions can be problematic in that way, but have you had a chance to observe any case studies or examples of some of the startups you work with or their clients in the pandemic and some innovative things that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things that we talked about before, EdTech, using one example as an EdTech, I think we all face that, right? Like the last year and the year before, having kids at home, trying to figure out everything is over that small screen that's in front of us. I think what parents were looking at is not cost was like, that was not a priority anymore. It was about quality of experience that the kids are getting and the time that they're spending in front of the screens that is useful than what they would like if given their own free will that they would do. I think that you can see it in the EdTech kind of a boom that's happened globally and specifically from India. So I think a lot where we saw is a lot of founders that kind of took that opportunity and kind of took that to the next level. And not naming names, there were several founders that were actually looking at US market as their go-to-market pre-pandemic. But when the pandemic hit, I mean, obviously adversity drives innovation, and they found an opportunity within the India market that is, I mean, now obviously India has like 1.7 and growing billion people, and all folk, I mean, with coming from India, I can tell you, extracurricular is like, extra math classes, it's not like swimming. So, I don't think that mindset has changed from when I moved here to there, it's still very much the same in a lot of cases. With that said, I think that's where the focus is. I think the entrepreneurs were smart enough to identify those opportunities and they're tech savvy already. So it's just a matter of tweaking their, product sets and services to be able to cater within India to going outside of India. I think that in itself, you are seeing a huge surge of edtech opportunities there. I think there was a joke now, there was like a tweet or something I saw, every company in India is an edtech company. I think
Oh,
which is incredible. I mean, I think there's still more opportunity there. Yes, it may feel now, if you take a look at it, there's way too many, but there isn't, right? Like there's a lot of consolidations that are happening. You're probably seeing a lot of Baiju is one of the decacorn in India. They just did an acquisition for Tinker, and they just announced one for Epic, and that's going to happen, right? Like they're not only companies in India are not only buying out companies within and consolidating those knowledge, but also looking at opportunity outside of India and bringing it in. So I think that's one I'm seeing that happen. On the MENA front, again, going back to Egypt, amazing set of founders that have come out and taken that opportunity to kind of move into the UAE market. Like I think that kind of, or the KSA market, I think that is a natural transition for them. But I think this kind of moved the GTM much faster in a lot of cases. They were able to do things because now you can meet, originally the constraint was, oh my God, I can't meet, I can't travel, I can't do this, I can't meet new people to kind of close the business. It kind of changed really quickly, meaning then now I can take 10 meetings a day or 12 meetings. I don't have to sleep, like Zoom meetings back to back, and I can actually reach from any part of the world. That mindset switch was fairly quick. So I think now it's a matter of how do you tell your story? How do you evolve your story to be, as relatable, as authentic, as, relevant on a Zoom screen versus you meeting in person. So I think the founders have evolved really fast, and we saw that trend happening in Egypt, and that several of really proud clients of SVB have done extremely well through the pandemic. So I think those two are the ones I would say is like kind of case studies, not naming the names, obviously.
yeah, great. That's exciting. And that leads actually into our last question. We touched on this earlier in terms of the accelerated fundraising rate. What kind of silver linings do you think you've seen either for the bank or for your clients in terms of unexpected great things? We talked about incredible investment levels. You want to talk about that, and then anything else that you've seen? The ingenuity also seems to have come up.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you asked me, like when I started this role, which was like 2.5, 3 years ago, global investors were always interested in India, right? Like I think the interest was there. They knew that there was a large TAM. They knew that the tech talent was there because India historically was like a service industry. And, that was not a question. But the challenge was about, hey, I don't know if I can, if that opportunity is profitable for me. Would I be able to take my money back? Am I making investments easily? Is there a regulatory framework kind of, is there ease of doing business there? So I think a lot of the questions still surrounded that, right? I can, fast forwarding into today, I'm not going to say all of it is gone and it's like perfect, but I can definitely say that has smoothened out a lot. You're seeing Tiger investing one company a week in a way.
Wow.
That it's just and across different ranges, right? And companies raising $100 million in India it's not rare anymore, and we're seeing this more often. So I think not just the dollar total funding raised, but individually the global investors believing in putting larger checks into the company has raised, right? So that is also going to kind of, I feel that's going to benefit, that is going to bring confidence within the ecosystem, and it builds better products, maturity of the investors, maturity of the founders in the market. And, you're going to see more of these PayPal type of mafias coming out of Freshworks mafia, hopefully out of Paytm mafias. And that is, again, going to spin out more and more companies. So I think that's the trend that I see happening, definitely. And MENA is same version, I would say a bit earlier, right? I think they're just earlier, but I think they're growing steadily. Sequoia did the first deal in Egypt for the first time. And I think that's a start, right? Like that's a milestone for the region to see that these large investors are looking into the region, and many more are, starting to peek in to see what's there. I think that FOMO is starting to build up. So I think that's just the start for what's to come next.
Yeah, maybe we'll see a Silicon Valley Bank office in Cairo one of these days.
May your dreams come true.
Well, Priya, it's been a real joy to have you, and continued good wishes for all the success, but not even needed, for the Global Gateway team at the bank. And thanks for all you do for the entrepreneurship ecosystem around the world.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. And you have been incredible. You're a huge supporter of the innovation ecosystem. You connect the dots more than any one of us. And thank you for doing what you're doing. And I'm grateful to be a part of this.
Oh, very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And next month, we'll look forward to speaking with Deborah Elms, the Singapore-based Executive Director of the Asia Trade Center. Very interesting things happening in the region with the free trade agreements at the moment. And that'll be our final broadcast for the year. Please hang on a moment for Priya's and our contact details. And if you're ready to talk about going global or global leadership development, please give us a call. 650-735-1875 USA country code. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day, evening, life. Bye-bye.